Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be taking a look at an oldie but a goodie known as Windforce. That's right, for those of you who are from Diablo 2, and I think even as far back as Diablo 1, Windforce is an iconic item that has definitely spent a lot of time on the Diablo franchise, just in general. And it's kind of cool to see it in Diablo 4 as well. What does Windforce do in Diablo 4? Well, it's got some interesting effects, and we're going to talk about those. First off, Windforce is an item that can roll as sacred and ancestral, and since it is a weapon, you definitely want to find it in the highest item power that you could possibly find it in, because, well, if you don't, then it's going to suck. So 820 is what you're shooting for when you find this thing. You definitely want to find an 820 Windforce, because that way you can get the best effect out of its bonus, its special effect. Since it is a bow, it does have damage to distant enemies on it, which is 40%. We also have 52 all stats, which is kind of amazing, and it rolls as high as 56. And it goes even higher, of course, when you upgrade it, which is kind of nuts. It does have 26% core skill damage, which rolls as high as 39%, and again goes even higher than that, which is, again, kind of nuts. So just massive amounts of damage here. Not only is it giving me to my main stat, it's also giving me to my substats, and this is very important for when you're using your board. So like when you're going on your Paragon board and you're looking at all your dojanks, notice that you have like requirements for these nodes. Like you have to meet minimum requirements of intelligence, or minimum requirements of dexterity, or minimum requirements of strength, and so forth and so on to get the special bonuses for these. And if you're not meeting those minimum requirements, well, you're not getting the damage. And the funny thing is that Windforce is giving you a huge amount of all stats, which is going to help you a ton with the Paragon board. We also get the 45% damage to distance enemies, which goes as high as 47, which is kind of massive. I mean, overall, like, it's a lot of damage mods on this. You got your all stats, which is a damage mod and helps with the Paragon board. You got your core skill damage, which is a damage mod. You got your distant enemies, which is a damage mod. And then the impetus passive. So the impetus passive is a passive on the tree. I believe it is right here. After moving 15 meters, your next attack deals 7% increased damage. Now, I'm kind of interested in this one because the game has so many things that make it so you can never stand still, like literally ever. Like you blink too hard, like if you blink like a little bit harder than normal, like you die, like in this game. So you're always moving, you're always staying, afoot, and you can get some pretty decent damage output out of this. So if you were to go down here. You can actually grab, let's just go ahead and throw some points into it. You can grab this as high as, 21% increased damage. And 2 levels of this is, of course, going to get you an extra 7% per level. So you get an extra 14%, which means that you basically get, 21, 35, so 35% increased damage from the impetus passive, which is kind of pretty massive. So, again, another damage mod. So we got damage mod, damage mod, damage mod, damage mod, right? And then on top of that, they also have another damage mod. So on top of all the damage mods that they give you another one which is tied to Lucky Hit. Now, because this one is tied to Lucky Hit, this one is a little strange, and it doesn't necessarily make it the best in the world because of the way that it's tied to Lucky Hit. So when you look at this one, it's not as great as it seems. But if you are a Lucky Hit build character, if you're building for Lucky Hit anyway, it's actually probably going to be insane. So let's run the numbers on this, and let's see what we're looking at as far as damage output, as like percentage chance of double damage. To do this, we're going to have to pull up a calculator, and we're going to use a ranged ability. Why not? So we've got Penetrating Shot here. Penetrating Shot is an interesting one that actually has an increasing Lucky Hit chance depending on the number of combo points that you have. And if you utilize something like the Condemnation, which gives you basically free combo points, you can get very nice damage output or Lucky Hit output from this ability. So let's use Penetrating Shot, which I think is one of the main options for this. And we currently have an 86% chance because of the 3 combo points, which you currently have active. An 86% chance is going to be 0.86, okay? Then we also have the ability itself, which is up to a 20% chance to deal double damage and to knock back the target. Double damage is a lot of damage. A complete doubling of whatever you're doing even if it's not appearing in the calculation exactly where you want, is going to be a pretty massive increase. You know, I would assume that it's probably somewhere in the middle, not at the beginning or the end, because usually when it's in the beginning of the end, it does way more than it probably should. But the doubling of damage is going to be pretty massive. The knockback, not really too worried about that. I mean, it's just additional crowd control as far as I'm concerned, which is helpful, but not necessary. The double damage is the real thing. So we're going to multiply that by the percent chance, which is 20%, so 0.20, which is going to give us our total percent chance of the double damage happening at about 17.2%. Then you have to calculate in your lucky hit bonuses. So this is really important. So if you have any lucky hit bonuses, these are going to be stacked on top of this. And normally a lucky hit character, somebody who's going to be utilizing an item like this, is going to be probably stacking a lucky hit to the moon and back. So let's assume at least about a 50% lucky hit bonus, right? So then you're going to multiply this by 1 point and then the amount of the lucky hit bonus, which is in this case 50%. And that's going to give us a total percent chance of double damage of 25.8%. That's actually kind of crazy. A 25% chance to deal double damage is a pretty big increase in your overall output, because double damage is double damage. And not only does this give you double damage, like at a 25%, 25.8% rate, it's also giving you core skill damage, damage to distant enemies again, and the impetus passive, which are all going to increase your damage in various ways. So the damage output on an 820 Windforce should be kind of insane, especially if you are a lucky hit build that's utilizing that double damage more than somebody else. Now, the Windforce does have some flavor text on it, which is there have been numerous world-shaping conflicts throughout history. This bow has been found on the battlefield of every one, and always in the hand of the victors. Barrett's Book of Implements. And that is a reference to the fact, of course, that it is an old unique from a long time ago. Diablo 1, Diablo 2. I think, was there one in Diablo 3? I can't even remember. Let me know in the comments. But overall, a very, very beautiful weapon for damage output. But because they tied the double damage to the lucky hit, it does require you to build lucky hit. I do not think that you are going to get good benefit out of this weapon unless you are a lucky hit build. If you are not a lucky hit build, it's probably not for you. Also, it specifically says that hits with this weapon. So it's important to note that you can't use this like in your offhand slot to beef up your daggers. So you have to actually shoot with the Windforce. It's not something that you can use as an offhand buff stick. So for those of you dagger rogues that are really interested in trying to utilize this to beef up your dagger attacks or your sword attacks or whatever you're using over here, it's not going to work. It only gives you the double damage if you actually fire the bow. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's much more to go over with this. A lucky hit weapon with a lot of damage, made for lucky hit builds. And if you want to know what lucky hit is, guess what? I got a video on that too. I got a whole video on lucky hit, goes over the entire thing, explains to you how to do it, goes over the calculations, how you're going to find out what your lucky hit percent chance is, and explains it in more detail than I've done today. As always, I appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just having fun talking about the Windforce. And as always, keep watching.